Hey everyone, it's your favorite object within the contiguous chain of causes and effects here. And today I kind of wanted to offer up a not a full critique of David Hume, sort of in line with one of my older videos, which was a broader critique of the Enlightenment. But I do want to, you know, um, give you guys something to think about. Um, and my problems with David Hume and his sort of way of thinking about metaphysics boils down to two things. And to his credit, to his credit, um he does actually acknowledge it. He's like, there are some cases in which, my system of cause and effect doesn't really apply. Like, humans can be passionate and irrational, and there's really no explanation for that. But generally, they are, very predictable and so and so. And I agree to an extent, but I kind of feel like that's too deterministic. And it's number one because of perception. I think that, yeah, he sort of gives lip service to it, but he doesn't really seriously address it. I think there are things which, too many things to count within human life that depends so much on perception. And number two, cultural um change. And so let me start um by tackling the perceptual critique of David Hume. And I'll give you an example, all right? So here in my room above me, you can't see it, but I assure you there is a ceiling fan. And imagine I turn on that ceiling fan, uh ladies and gentlemen. And so, okay, it starts spinning. It's kind of slow at first, but I can still see the blades going round and round. Well, suppose I turn my ceiling fan on really high. What happens then? Well, when I look at it spinning after a certain velocity, it starts to appear to flicker. The individual blades become a blur. Maybe I see one blade flicker here in one location around the circle and there in another. You know, Hume can explain those types of optical illusions that happen literally all the time. That specifically, that one is the illusion of motion. Um and a better known, I would say, or maybe not better known, but a better utilized form of that illusion is what you're watching right now. Literally, this camera is just capturing a bunch of images of me and, putting them back together, playing them at a fast enough rate to where your brain and your eyes are literally tricking you into thinking that I'm moving right now. But it's literally just still images, guys. And if you ever know how an old style CRT tube TV works, it works the same way. There are three guns or electron beams that, you know, using a phosphor and the magnet drag the image literally across the screen, and that's how the picture is formed. Um and again, that's entirely perceptual. That has nothing to do with cause and effect, or at least not in the same way that Hume thinks of it. Hume is like very, okay, this is the cause and this is the effect. But in terms of the illusion of motion, it's not so simple. Um it's a purely perceptual thing, and the thing is, there's so much subjectivity to it because the way you see frame rate is not the way I see frame rate or the illusion of motion. It's different for everyone. Um and the second critique is sort of a cultural critique, not in the way of that Hume was a straight white man. Read not like that. But I just mean that in terms of the contiguity, being able to trace the chain of causes and effects when it comes to culture, it's almost impossible to do that, at least not while you're living it. Take language, for example. Like, um, this is just something that I have noticed, but, in Spanish, the word for something that's worse than another thing is peor, which um comes from the comparative form of the Latin male, which is something bad, or like the adverbial form of bad, so badly. It goes male, peor, pessimus. In Latin, it has a Y sound or an EI diphthong. Well, I don't know if this is just in Guatemala or not, or if this is just in Spanish speaker in the United States as well. But I've noticed, when I went to go visit my family, they're pronouncing it differently, guys. They're pronouncing it peor. They're adding back the the diphthong, or it could also be a J depending on how you look at it. Um and brothers and sisters, I can assure you that in Guatemala, most schools, unless you go to a really really high end school, they are not teaching students that much Latin. But yet they're once again pronouncing it peor. Who started that? You know what I mean? No one starts these language changes. Um or in English, I've noticed that, I don't say trip, I say trip with a ch. And I'm like, dang, why do I pronounce it like that? But then I started noticing that others kind of pronounce it like that too. Like, or another big one is the cot merger. If you can't hear the difference between cot and caught or caught, then whoop de doo, your dialect change, your way of speaking. But who starts those things? No, there's not a definite start point or end point for those types of things. It's more, dare I say, mimetic in nature, right? There's one idea that starts off and then people spin that off, but the exact origination is most of the time hard to pin down. After a certain point, it gets impossible to know what type of influences went into the causes that led to this effect. And, you know, there is, in that sense, something ideal, something transcendent in terms of human culture. And I'm with Kant. In the beginning, I said that I was an object of the contiguous chain of causes and effects. Well, if you take my criticisms to be valid, I would actually become a subject in the contiguous chain of causes and effects, able to step out of that chain. And now I have free will. And that is essentially my biggest problem with Hume. He doesn't make enough allowance for human free will, and he kind of hand waves it away, which in a way is the humble thing to do, but for metaphysicians like us, it's not good enough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Bye.